This week on Taking Care of Business, I am going to talk to you about diversifying your real estate portfolio.
So if you're putting a 25% deposit down in total,
Yeah.
and you get a 16% capital growth on your capital value, the return on capital invested is huge, 60%.
I'm joined by CEO of API Global, Michael Leighton, and we are going to talk about amazing investment opportunities in Manchester, in Birmingham, and in London for as little as 150,000 dirhams investment. Guys, if you have 150,000 dirhams spare today, you can buy a piece of Manchester real estate, prime Manchester real estate. Make sure you see the link below, subscribe, watch it, tune in. This is a fantastic one. I have got an amazing guest this week on Taking Care of Business. I have got the CEO and founder, Michael Leighton of API Global, and actually the newest partner with Allsopp and Allsopp. I'm hot off the press information. We're working together. So firstly, Michael, mate, thank you very much for your time for coming and joining us on the podcast.
Great to be here, Carl. Thank you very much for having me.
So something very near and dear to my heart while you're here today and why we've got into this partnership, API Global. Tell us a little bit about them, yourselves as a company. We've entered into a new partnership. Main aim is to get an entry into UK property.
Yep.
Something near and dear to my heart. I'm an ex-estate agent in the UK before coming here 16, 17 years ago. So tell us a little bit about API Global first and how it works with the UK property. Sure. And of course about yourself as well. It'd be great.
Absolutely. Thank you, Carl. Before we do that, I've got a present for you.
Okay, nice.
So as you've invested into the W residence, which as you know is Gary Neville's project, I bought you a little something. I think it's quite timely actually, that I give you that present.
If this is a Man United shirt, oh my God.
Oh my goodness.
Has he got me a Man United shirt?
Do
you know what, honestly?
Well, I saw you, you're a diehard Man U fan, aren't you?
So for context of this, I've got a Manchester United shirt here. So I am...
Signed by Gary Neville.
Lovely, thanks Gary. A huge Coventry City fan. We were robbed on Sunday by Manchester United in the FA Cup semi-final.
So there you go, from me to you.
Too soon.
So, yeah, apologies. So,
Thanks,
sorry, thanks for having me. Honestly, it's great to be here. I'm super excited about the collaboration, the opportunity. It's been a long time coming. We've been knocking at your door for a while, and I totally respect. You guys have been busy taking over the UAE market, which is fantastic. So, firstly, congrats on that. A little bit about API Global first and foremost. Maybe it starts with a bit about myself. My background is chartered surveying, so I went to university, studied urban land economics to become a chartered surveyor. In 2007, I qualified as MRICS, a member of the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors, and went and entered into the commercial property market, basically. I was a surveyor for, I think, around 7 years. Post-qualified, 3 years pre-qualified, so 10 in total. Held senior roles at major corporations, like I said, CBRE in UK and Middle East, and DTZ in Hong Kong. So I actually left the UK in 2007, much like yourself. I think, were you 2007?
2008, January.
Yeah, okay. Basically the same, aren't we? You know, I've known you and Lewis a long time, and with those kind of 2008 entrants.
It was a wild era, yes.
Yeah, it was. A lot of people were leaving, weren't they?
Yes, they were.
And I suppose, can I say the good guys stayed and built something, and we're here now, right? So, but I left the UK. I was one of those guys who, as soon as I was qualified, I just had to get on the plane somewhere. And I actually moved to Hong Kong, having never been to Hong Kong. And I was offered 2 jobs. I was offered a job in Hong Kong and a job here. And I got both of them. But with the Middle East sometimes taking longer than other parts of the world and getting contracts sorted and making the formal offers, I didn't miss out on the Hong Kong opportunity. So I ended up working for DTZ in Hong Kong for a year before I actually got a start date at CBRE here. So a very tough day of my life was leaving Hong Kong and coming to the Middle East, but I'm very, very happy that I did that because it's worked out very well here. Worked for CBRE many years, great operation, biggest commercial real estate company in the world. But it just isn't me. I'm not a corporate beast. I'm somebody who's quite dynamic, who's quite entrepreneurial, and And I work harder than most people. And it's something that I've seen on your podcast recently, actually, which is, you earn what you earn where you get to in life. And I think, I certainly think from where I'm from Preston, very similar to Coventry, like you boys. And it's not easy to get out of these places, and you've got to work hard. And I think when you're young, you get this work ethic instilled. The last thing you do at night is check your phone, wrap the day up, and the first thing you do in the morning is open your phone and
before speaking to your wife,
and before kissing a good night and everything else. So I think, look, I've always had that hard working ethic, and I think that's hugely important, and that's ingrained into API Global as a business now. So I moved away from commercial real estate. I saw an opportunity in the residential sector, and not to enter the local market because you guys have got that wrapped up, okay? But to really, there was an obvious opportunity for me in UK investments. It's a market I understand very well. I've got a fantastic network, and I understand the legislation. I understand the way things are done, how business operates, and there was kind of two types of businesses that existed in the residential investment sector. One is your CBREs, your Savills, your Knight Franks, your corporates, which, in my opinion, they're not residential companies. Mm-hmm. These are commercial real estate companies. The residential, it's an ancillary offering, okay? And then you've got the lower end of the spectrum where
basically what I used to do as a estate agent.
Well, not estate agents, actual investment rooms. Yeah. Where they're misrepresenting investments. Okay. They're offering guaranteed returns that are never going to be achievable. They're offering huge. They're getting paid huge commissions, which is built into the property value. All of these things, which really leaves a bad taste in people's mouths, when investing, and certainly, especially, should I say, offshore investors, where they don't fully understand the market. They need the hand-holding. They need that support. So for me, there was a really obvious opportunity in the residential sector to enter the market, to align ourselves almost like a wealth management company. Mm-hmm. And that's what we've tried to do. We're a numbers company. For us, it's about taking emotion out of property, And I think the guy said it a little bit earlier on the presentation, which is, look at the numbers. If the numbers make sense, move ahead. The investment works for you. And the way in which we align ourselves, we're a distribution company. It's important. We don't sell directly ourselves. So we work with companies like Allsopp and Allsopp to essentially be a plug-in to your sales team. And we support the process. So the client journey for us is very, very important. And that's really what I wanted to create was, I wanted to create a business where we generate wealth through property investment. Yeah. Okay? And we look at investments very much like a wealth manager. And we continue, and it's a continuous relationship with the clients where we optimize their portfolio. So quarterly, we will offer clients, for example, a portfolio review. Yeah. Now, I don't know any other company that does that, but why shouldn't we do that? If you go to a wealth manager, you're expected to have at least a quarterly review on your portfolio. And how do we optimize that maximum?
So how would that work in terms of a portfolio review? Let's say I've got 3 properties I bought for you.
Yeah.
How would you review it? Would it be based on like what rental income I've had? If there's been any change in pricing? Is there any transactions similar happen? What sort of thing happened?
Right. So one of the things we've been doing recently is we've got a machine learning portal that we're close to launching. And what that basically does, I don't know, I didn't know until recently actually, admittedly, the difference between machine learning and AI. Mm-hmm. Machine learning requires human interaction. Yeah. So the computer will tell you something and summarize it, and then you need human interaction to translate that through to a client, whereas AI does the whole thing instead. Yeah. So we want to retain that human interaction. So we've got a machine learning portal whereby we take multiple data points, Rightmove, house pricing index, HMRC, land registry, all of these different things, live mortgage rates, FX rates, which is a hugely important component of offshore investing. And what that will do is that will analyze your portfolio and say, Carl, you've bought these 3 investments, you paid £750,000, let's say. This is your return on capital invested. Mm-hmm. And again, that's how we think. It's all about return on capital invested, which is why leverage is such an important part of what we do. This is what you paid, $750, and this is what they're worth currently. And this is what we recommend. And that might be do nothing, hold. We're still at the beginning of the curve. It might be release equity and reinvest and continue to build your portfolio. It might be there's better mortgage rates in the market, so refinance, or it might be sell, realize the value. We feel that particular unit in that location has hit the top of the curve, and you can deploy that capital elsewhere. What we're trying to do is basically offer a service where it's research-led, first and foremost, hugely important, but also we hold the client's hand through the whole process. So it's hands-off, hassle-free wealth generator. And we can build portfolios on behalf of the clients.
I guess when you started, though, so 11 years ago, right, more or less?
Yeah, we're in our 11th year now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I find fascinating is I'm from the UK. The amount of people I speak to on a weekly basis that are not from the UK that are fascinated with entering into the UK property market. So anyone that lives here, whether you're local, whether from Middle East or even further afield than that, there is a lure, isn't there? Something about the UK where people feel that they should have some exposure there.
Yeah, I think it's viewed as a safe haven to many countries in the world. And there's there's a valid reason for that. It's the most established property legislation in the world. I was we've got a small office in Santiago in Chile and one in Sao Paulo in Brazil. And I was hosting an event in each of those locations a few months ago. And I was astonished because in Santiago in Chile, mortgages are inflationary linked. So let's say the inflation at the end of 2022 in the UK was up to almost 11%.
Yeah.
Imagine paying 11%.
Wow.
I mean, that's so volatile and it's so high risk for an investor. And then when I thought that was unusual, we flew over to Sao Paulo, which is a very hairy plane ride if you ever fly over the Andes. Never do that if you can avoid it. And in Brazil, if you buy off plan, you can't lock in the price. You have to agree to pay what it's worth on completion.
Wow.
So when you look at these laws that are in place in other countries, and then you've got the volatility of the Nigerian naira, for example. We have a lot of Nigerian clients that look at the UK as a safe haven because their currency is so volatile. So what you actually find is there's many other reasons. It's not just about the quality of the investment. There's many other reasons why different nationalities invest into the UK, and it's very much seen as a safe haven.
Tell us a little bit about your developments then. So obviously your involvement, I don't want to call you middleman because it's a horrible way of labeling it, but basically essentially between the developer and let's say someone like us or other partners, you're the connector, I guess, of things.
Yeah, look, I think when I set API up, it was set up as a distribution company, okay? We wanted to be a specialist distribution business where we can support companies like yours. And we've done a great job of that. And we've played with a straight bat. We've stayed true to ourselves in that respect. It's very easy for us to go and start generating our own direct sales. We don't want to do that. We want to stay true to who we are and our identity. And then we've built businesses off it. So we've built a lettings and management arm. We've got a mortgage brokerage. We've got a capital raising facility called API Capital Partners. We've got our own development arm called City House. And the idea is we started as a middleman and a master agent, however you want to say that. But I'm an ambitious guy, and my team are ambitious, and I've got a really strong group of people around me, and that's hugely important. So what we've actually done over the years is we've reverse engineered, for want of a better term, our way through a property deal. So if you imagine when you sell an asset to the end investor, that's the master agency piece. But that's not the only deal structure you can apply to real estate. And I also want to take risk alongside our clients. I think it's very, very important for us to deploy capital ourselves as well. So we actually have 4 different deal structures now. So when we conduct research, and let me just take you through the end-to-end solution, because I think it's quite important. Or rather than the end-to-end solution, let's look at what do we do before we bring an investment to you. Okay, because I think that's important, what happens behind the scenes. The first fundamental part of our process is the research. Everything we do is based on data, based on research, looking at the chronic undersupply, the supply and demand imbalance, and looking for areas where we expect regeneration. What we're trying to achieve is capital growth and rental growth, sustained. If we can do that, then we're winning for clients. And the kind of things that influence that are the corporate relocation, HSBC moving to Manchester, BBC moving up to the regional cities, Goldman Sachs taking 120,000 square foot office in Birmingham. All of these different things have a fantastically positive impact on renters in a city, demand from renters, which is what investors are looking for, basically. Student retention rates, things like that. Manchester, for example, has got the highest student retention rate in the UK. So we've got the highest percentage of post-grads who are coming straight out of university looking for well-paid jobs. What does that do? That means that they can afford better quality living, right? So rents increase.
Yeah.
Alongside all of these positive impacts, you've got a dwindling supply in the UK, and it's a chronic issue. It's an issue.
Why is it dwindling?
Because we just can't build enough houses.
Yeah.
The government doesn't have a planning system in the UK to cope with the demand.
Yeah.
And there's lots of different reasons for that demand. The population increases through whether that's through immigration or more people being born, people living longer. There's lots of different reasons for that. But what were the
numbers? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I heard we had a presentation earlier on for everyone watching. I heard 300,000 requirement.
So there's a requirement for at least 300,000 new houses every year. And at the moment, we're getting somewhere around 170, 180,000.
Okay. And that 300,000 requirement is based on forecast population growth, people growing.
Over 20 years of data of not hitting it ever.
Yeah.
We've never hit the housing target. We've never hit it. And there are some, there's some initiatives in place that the government try. There's Help to Buy. There's because people can't afford to get on the property ladder as well, right? So there's Help to Buy. There's things such as permitted development. Brilliant initiative, converting city. So one of the things that's happened over the past 10 years in the real estate, one of the trends in the real estate market is that 70s and 80s office buildings are high vacancy rates, right? Just that people are looking for new, high quality, grade A office. So what that means is you've got vacancy in these lower quality 1970s, 1980s build. So one of the initiatives was permitted development, where a developer can buy the office building, convert it into residential without the need for detailed planning permission. Brilliant idea. The challenge you've got with that is the government love it, developers love it because it's high returns for developers, but mortgage lenders aren't totally on board with it. So it's all good having these initiatives, but you need all groups of people relevant.
Why would that be? And sorry to get quite granular here, but let's say, I know in Coventry there was talks, and obviously not been there for a long time, but talks of the old buildings in there being converted. Why, from a mortgage company's perspective, why would they not lend money if it's basically been redone, it's been redeveloped, it's in the town centre? What's the...
Because mortgage companies are difficult, right?
Okay.
It's seen as a higher risk proposition for them. It's that simple.
Is that because the quality of the original build?
The structure is not built to sustain a residential tower.
Okay.
Like now, you and I both know that they'll serve a purpose and they'll do a great job. And location-wise, central to a city or a town centre, it makes complete sense.
Yeah.
The problem is mortgage lenders have an amount of money they're willing to lend. And if that means that they can lend them on big, shiny, brand new towers, new build with 10-year build warranties, then they'll choose that.
Yeah, of course.
Over the older stock.
Of course.
So, but it's a great initiative. But going back to your point, there's a significant undersupply. So part of our research is identifying these areas of undersupply, where we're getting regeneration, government spends coming in, grants, that sort of stuff, and where we think we can get capital and rental growth. We'll then move on to the next stage, which is sourcing the project now and the due diligence process. So we'll conduct all of the due diligence in-house. Everything we do is in-house, and with exceptions to legal advice, of course. We will conduct due diligence on a project. We will also look at applying one of 4 deal structures. So we can sit, if it's a Salboy, for example, as we talked about it earlier, Salboy is a very well-funded business, to say the least, owned by Simon Ismail and Fred Doan. Fred owns Betfred, which is £1 billion betting business, but also that's actually not his biggest business. He's got Peninsula Legal Services, which is a multi-billion-pound business, which not many people know about. So it's fair to say Fred and Simon don't need our capital. So the position with the likes of Salboy to represent them is as an advisor, as a master agent. And that's our bread and butter. We will. That's our core business. and we take their projects around the world. We've got 13 offices globally now across 5 continents, and we will represent them as our partner and support them on distributing that. The second deal structure we will apply is what we call an underwrite. So we will actually take a capital position and exchange on the full tower ourselves. And then we will sell the units to investors throughout construction. Anything unsold on completion, we will then buy and add to our own portfolio. We can offer joint venture structures. So we would buy the land and a developer would build out the assets.
Yeah.
So that's a clean joint venture. Or we have the ability to build this ourselves through our development arm, City House. So I think it's really important to get this point across because we take risk. Mm-hmm. We're not just an agent who's going to bring an asset. So going back to the middleman point, I guess, earlier, is we're way more than a middleman.
Yeah.
And we really genuinely understand deals and from A to Z and where the different touch points are in those deals and where we can create the value for the investor, basically.
Okay. How careful do you, I know you run the numbers, but how choosy and careful are you with the developments that you work with? Because obviously your track record is fantastic. You've been involved with 65 different projects in the 11 years. But how much thought, you don't sell everything, do you, and everything and everywhere?
No, we're fortunate now because we've stood the test of time. Many of our competitors have come and gone in that time, and much, I'm sure, you've seen the same in your sector here. You kiss a lot. I think the guys, I heard them say earlier when they were presenting, we've kissed a lot of frogs along the way, and I think it's really part of the evolution of a business. In my view, you've got to take the rough with the smooth, and you've got to make the right decisions when they're quite difficult to make at times. And I think we've been very good at that. I think we've been good at selecting the partners we work with, not forcing something, taking the longer route if that's what's required. I'm very firm with my team, and I have been from the off, which is this is how we approach the business. Okay, we're not going to cut corners. We're not going to take easy street. We're going to choose the right partners to work with, the people with the track records. And if it takes us twice as long to get to where we need to be, so be it. We'll get there. Yeah. And once you're there, then it's great. And we're fortunate enough now where we, last year we sold over $250 million worth of UK real estate. It's firmly put us on the map. And we're in a position where developers want to work with us now. They're coming to us and offering their projects. So we can be a little bit selective now, I guess.
So a lot of things you work with a minute, you're the exclusive agency for Middle East, North Africa and parts of Asia.
Yeah. Well, it depends. So I think less is more for me. When we look at a city, let's take Manchester, for example, we don't want lots of partners. We want a premium offering and then probably one level down. Yeah. So Salboy are, for me, the best developer in Manchester, and we're fortunate enough to have a fantastic relationship with them where we're globally exclusive on wealth managers because our core business is working with wealth management companies and supplying wealth managers with real estate investments. And we're exclusive on all agents basically across Middle East, Africa, Europe. Yeah. We're in South America. Sorry. So we've got a fantastic position with Salboy. We then have another partner in Manchester called Foreshore Group, who aren't quite at the same level. Probably a bit more what I call investment grade products. So slightly lower price point, lower entry level, still very good quality, but just not as premium.
I think to be honest, it's very important to have different offerings because obviously someone's first time dealing with you guys, they may feel like, okay, I'm going to dip my toe in the water, see proof of concept, make sure that it's rented out. Because obviously with your offering, not only do you help find product, sell it through someone like us, legal team, put us in touch with a legal team, eventually when it's built, help with mortgages, right place, and look, property management, rental income. So it's the full cycle, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. We do the whole thing. We do the A to Z on behalf of the investor. Look, for me, I think some of the unsung heroes in these types of businesses are the operations and the back office. And for me, I can't stress enough how important it is to have the operational team in the background because they're the people that make the client journey. They're the people that dictate how the client feels throughout the process. it's great to have good sales guys and to have good products, but you need to finish your job. The sell is the first piece of it. You need to make sure that client has a very comfortable journey throughout the whole process, through to completion of the investment, and the management of that asset on behalf of the clients afterwards, the portfolio optimization, maximizing their returns, but also the exit.
I bought some stuff through you, and I'm a numbers person. Not really interested in brochures and all that sort of stuff. I'm interested in do the numbers work. One thing I like about working with your guys is that it is numbers led. They're not typical salespeople. You've got to buy this. You've got to buy this. It's like, this is how you can buy it. This is how much you need. This is what it look like in a couple of years, and this is how you potentially can invest. If someone's looking to buy something for the first time in the UK, what sort of thing would you say to start with as their first investment?
Well, look, I think it's important to understand the clients first and foremost, right? It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. Yeah, we've got projects which for example, we've got the event next week where we will put emphasis on Obsidian because it's a new launch. But we're not going to push that project to every client. Yeah. We'll sit down and we'll understand the client's position, their appetite for risk, their financial position. So that dictates a lot of it. Yeah. What I would say is diversification's absolutely key. Yeah. For your first investment, go for something you can afford, something where you're not going to overstretch yourself. You can see proof of concept. And then from the second investment onwards, we start looking at diversification and how we can spread that risk a little bit. And whether that's through location or price point or type of property, there's different ways that we can do that.
Well, speaking about someone's first investment, I think it's probably quite pertinent to talk about Obsidian.
Yes.
So Obsidian's going to be your newest launch. I think we've got an event next Wednesday. So we're filming today on the 23rd of April. It's going to be Wednesday the 1st.
Wednesday the 1st of May.
Wednesday the 1st of May. So if you want to come along to the event, it is strictly
it's invite only.
Invite only.
Obviously, we've extended that invite to all of your clients, and we'd love to obviously see them there.
So let's use that as an example then. So Obsidian, I've seen some really interesting floor plans. The concept's really great. It's in central Manchester. Start price is circa 260
just under 250. 249,000 start price.
Okay. So how would that work then? So I'm Carl Allsopp. I've never bought in the UK before. Don't know how the system works. If I was to buy an Obsidian or reserve Obsidian, say, how does that work from reservation through to what we know as exchange of contracts, but in here it might be signing an MOU, through to completion? When do I need that money? It'd be good to know.
Okay, so the first thing we do is we'll sit with the client. We'll understand, like I said earlier, their appetite for risk, how much money they have, and we'll select the right units for them, or the best available units within their price range. Okay, we will then, and that will be one of the API global account managers that will conduct those meetings. Once we've selected a unit, the client will be required to fill in a reservation form and provide anti-money laundering, proof of funds and AML checks, etc., and send a reservation fee. Yeah. Okay. At that point, they'll be passed across to our sales progression.
Sorry to interrupt. What's the reservation fee?
The reservation fee is anything. It's either 2,000 or 5,000. It depends. Pounds. Sorry, yes, sterling. So.
And that's about 10,000 dirhams.
Yeah, 10,000 dirhams, exactly. Yeah, that's for the Salboy project. So Obsidian specifically is 10,000 dirhams, basically. For other non-Salboy investments, we usually have a £5,000 fee. We try and keep it universal, just for simplicity to smooth the process. Once those checks have been conducted and we're comfortable, we'll submit the deal. The sales progressor will bring in a conveyancer. Now, the client's absolutely welcome to go and secure their own conveyancer if they have a relationship already with a legal advisor, then absolutely. Or we will have a panel that they can choose from who, importantly, will have already been instructed at the point of due diligence. Yeah. So if we bring a conveyancer to the client, that conveyancer will already have seen the contract pack, read the contract pack, and signed the contract pack off.
So speed's quite important, right?
That's for speed. If the client just wants this most simple process, we recommend they use one of our panel.
So if they've paid the deposit, the solicitor's been instructed, they've done the checks, the solicitor does what they need to do in terms of reporting on the title deed or the title itself, in terms of highlighting key things about the legals of the project. Is there a requirement, like most new builds, from point of reservation to then a legal exchange contract? Is there a time frame typically?
Yeah, so that's 28 days. Okay.
Which is normal, right?
Normal, yeah. Same here, same in the UK. So within 28 days, the clients will be requested to send their exchange deposits, which with Salboy is 15% on exchange of contracts, 28 days following instruction, should I say, of the deal, and then 10% 6 months later. Okay. So, but critically, at the point of the 15, that's when the client exchanges and becomes legally binding to buy the assets on completion. Okay.
So I'm just trying to work my maths out here now. So if I'm buying a studio, which is 250,000 pounds, I need 15%. So that would be
37,500.
Okay, so that's roughly in dirhams about 130,000.
Yeah, 130,000. That's kind of your entry level. It's affordable when you've been in for people who live in Dubai. Really,
so 130,000 dirhams. I'm exchanging contracts. I'm legally bound to then complete on this unit in 2.5 years' time.
Yeah.
I then need to find the remaining amount, which would be circa, let's call it 200,000 for argument's sake.
Sure.
Okay, so it's about 1 million dirhams.
Sure.
In them 2 years, what do you foresee happening?
With Salboy specifically, so we actually conducted, when we launched the W recently, which was hugely successful, by the way. And the W is actually quite a nice benchmark comparing the two countries because we're so used to branded residences in the Middle East, but they just don't really exist in the UK. There's 5 branded residences in the whole of the UK, and all of which are in London. The W for a 2-bed was, starting price of £670,000 for a W residence in the most prime location in Manchester city centre. What's that in dirhams? In dirhams, that's 3 million dirhams?
Yeah.
It feels cheap, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
For what you're buying. So the UK really is a value proposition, especially for people who live in the Middle East. But going back to what you were saying, throughout the construction, it's important for us as a business to keep close communication with the client. So we have multiple touch points throughout the construction process. Okay, so once the client's achieved exchange of contracts, we have a marketing team that provides quarterly construction updates, drone videos, and PDF with photos. And we usually run a video talking with one of my guys talking through where we're up to and what's happened in the last quarter. So that's important for the clients to see what's actually going on site and gives them the comfort. And then 6 months before completion is when the client can start the mortgage process. So mortgage offers are valid for 6 months, basically. So my in-house team will reach out to the clients and they'll make sure that they are in a position to go ahead with the investment. I think what's important is one of the ways we protect clients' interests is we have an assignability clause in contracts. So if, for example, 6 months before completion, a client's lost their job or there's been a bereavement, God forbid, or something along those lines, we are in a position where we can potentially get the clients out of that investment.
And then assign it to another
buyer.
And at least get their deposit back.
That's exactly this is how we think as a business. It's the most important thing for us is protecting clients long term. Okay. Just so obviously subject to the client being in a position to go ahead, then my team will put them in touch with the correct broker or lenders and help them get the best mortgage product in the market. And just work through to a smooth completion of the investment, basically.
Okay, so I've paid my deposit, my 130,000 dirhams. I've got to pay the rest in 2 years' time. 6 months before you help me with the mortgage. I get more mortgage offer. I'm ready to complete. The solicitor rings me and says, "Good news, it's completed," or emails me, "It's completed." I'm then left with keys to a property that I've never seen before. What happens then?
Okay, so. Leading up into the completion, probably 3 months before, there's actually an option on our reservation forms for clients to tick to use our letters of management on, which we'd always encourage people to do. I know it feels early when you're 2 years out, but that little tick on the reservation form sets the wheels in motion behind the scenes with API. So Redstone Letters of Management is our letters of management arm. We've currently got about 700 units under management in the UK. It's a relatively new business. We've been in operation about 3 years, but we've actually got a partnership with a company called Countrywide, which is the biggest network of estate agencies, as I'm sure you'll know, in the UK. And they conduct all the tenant find for us. And the tenant find is basically where you go out and you find a suitable tenant to pay the best possible rent for the investor. What Redstone does is we understand the needs of offshore investors, and we're that conduit. So we manage everything else, key collection, all of the bills, which is a really important thing. You know, the last thing somebody needs in Dubai is an electricity bill coming from their UK apartment. So we deal with all of that.
What about a phone call at 2:00 in the morning? The electricity's gone off or something.
That won't happen, right? So that's the point. That's kind of Redstone's job to make sure that doesn't happen. We also can deal with furniture packs. So furniture packs, again, is something that at the point of reservation, a client can tick the box to say they're interested. We'd always encourage furniture packs because you generate more rents. So a furnished unit, there's more and more demand for a furnished unit. You know, lots of it, we touched on earlier in the presentation. We've got what we call generation rents, which is a term used for the current state of the market, which is individuals under the age of 40 that simply can't afford to buy.
Particularly with interest rates the way they are now.
Where interest rates are, you know, inflation has come down to just over 3% now. Interest rates are still at 5.25, albeit there is talk of potentially up to 3 cuts on that this year before the year end. Importantly, though, it's really you've got me thinking. Actually, you reminded me. Interest rates are high comparatively, or over the past few years, compared to the last few years. If you look actually at the last 20 years, they're not particularly high. But mortgage rates aren't. Mortgage rates for an offshore investor, even when we're at 0.5%, we're still at the 4% mark for an offshore investor. Offshore investors can achieve sub 5 today. Because what we've seen is that the swap rates that the mortgage lenders buy money at has reduced, but also there's a competition in the mortgage market to lend.
From memory, 2002 when I bought my first property, 18, nearly 19. From memory, Northern Rock. I'm sure it was near 7%.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Crazy. So it's not panic stations.
No, I mean, look, the reality is we've been spoilt with money the last few years in terms of zero interest rates. So circling back to next week, big event. We've got Obsidian building. If you've not seen it, jump on Google, jump on API Global. We've got some links we'll share down here about the development, the building. Mostly investors. Do you think people may buy to live in also?
Look, I think our core business is investment.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to. We sometimes get requests for people who want to move back to the UK. Certainly in the UK, we've got a Manchester office actually on King Street, and so you know there is more of a focus in that office to look for owner occupiers to target the local market. But certainly for the Middle East, it's an investment-focused event. It's the second event we've done in Attico. I don't know if you haven't been to Attico. It's a fantastic venue. So the top floor of the W Mina Siahi, it's got a panoramic view with blue waters, the Palm. At night, it's something really different.
I've just been called out for not being RSVP, by the way.
Yeah.
So a bit of pressure for me to go next week on the event. If you come and see me as well next week, I'll probably be there.
You'll have to ask. I don't know if you're allowed. I don't know if the boys will let you anymore. But no, the venue's absolutely fantastic. And it's a bit different to your typical, certainly your local real estate launch here. We're trying to be different. I want people to come to this event and enjoy it. And we did. We conducted the launch of the W recently. We had Gary Neville who flew in for it, who's a fantastic talker, real inspirational guy. You know, his company Relentless. You can relate to. Why did he call it Relentless? Because life is relentless. Yeah. When you're a businessman, it never stops. And so, brilliant talker. It was a fantastic event. We had about 400 people there. We had live entertainment, food, some drinks. Lots of competitions and prizes to be won, things like that. But the venue really made it because it's quite a dark, nice vibe in the place. It's a bar restaurant, so it's a bit different. So I think people really enjoy it. I'd encourage people, and encourage investors certainly to come down. There's no pressure to buy, but you will learn a lot. We're also conducting a property masterclass as well. So we're going to have mortgage specialists there. We're going to have listings and management specialists. I will be conducting an interview with Simon Ismail, who's the owner of Salboy. So it's going to be a fun night. And really looking forward to it.
So what the studios, we talked about studios sort of starting at 250, 1 and 2 beds. What prices can we look to start at potentially this development?
Yeah, 249,000 start price.
Yeah,
that will
1 beds.
That will get you a studio of about 420 square feet. 1 beds are up towards 300,000.
Yeah.
price point. Fantastic quality project though, with all the amenities, cinema rooms is standard now, as you see in all of these developments, co-working space, gymnasiums. It's really, the market stepped up massively in the past 10 years. And but that's from the demand. That's what tenants are demanding these days.
Yeah,
so it's really important you stay ahead of that. 2 beds, you're looking at around the 400K mark. There's a few just below that. And then the 3 beds,
and above that.
And then we've got penthouses for those.
So that's what you're buying.
Well,
what about location? Key thing, investment. Whereabouts is it?
It's Manchester city centre. You're 5 minutes walk into the city, so it's within the inner ring road. Manchester's got 2 ring roads: the M60, outer ring road, and then it's got the main inner ring road, and it's within that. So anything within that is city centre proper. Anything out, and then what you're seeing is actually the city centre expanding outside of that now. So. Yeah, it's brilliant location. It's actually adjacent to 2 of their other projects called Blackfriars and 55 Queen Street, both of which reflected a 15 to 16% capital growth throughout construction.
Wow.
So if you're putting a 25% deposit down in total,
and
you're getting a 15, 16% capital growth on your capital value, the return on capital invested is huge, 60% plus.
What about, before we wrap up, Manchester? Why should someone invest in Manchester?
I strongly believe Manchester's the second city in the UK now.
Yeah.
I started my career in Manchester in 2005. Brilliant city back then. Fantastic culture, fantastic nightlife, great food and beverage scene. Fancy, I think there's last count was 95 of the 100 FTSE 100 companies there. You're seeing companies like the BBC moving to Manchester, so that's a huge statement.
2 really rubbish football clubs there.
2, one rubbish one fantastic. You've got a huge investment from Abu Dhabi, China investing, massive amounts
universities.
Of money 4 universities, 4 of the leading universities, highest student retention rate. I could go on all day about Manchester, but just the evolution of the city that I've seen every time I go back. Massive changes. Soho House opening in Manchester, which is it's a big thing, for the Sexy Fish from Berkeley Square and Mayfair have opened in Manchester. So when you're seeing these companies, especially on the nightlife scene, and the W obviously selecting Manchester as their first branded residence outside of London, it's huge.
Guys, everybody, next week, the event's happening. If you are interested in UK property, specifically with us in the development in Obsidian, and also a couple of units left in W, I believe.
Yeah, we've actually got a release at the event of the W. So, sorry, one last thing to say on the event. It's a developer showcase.
Okay.
So it is the launch of Obsidian, but we also have 2 other scale models and information on the W residences, where we have the last couple of floors being released. So last chance to get in to the W. So we'd urge you, if you have looked at the developments or you want to learn more, come down and we'll have people there to talk you through the W as well. And Waterhouse Gardens, which is another of Salboy's projects. So we'll have 3 developments to look at there.
Okay. I will leave it on this. Guys, if you have 150,000 dirhams spare today, you can buy a piece of Manchester real estate, prime Manchester real estate. So all you need to do is speak to any member of staff at Allsopp and Allsopp. They've all been fully clued up on the project and how it works. We'll have an introduction to API Global as soon as possible. They will talk you through the facts, the numbers, the proposition, not just show you a shiny floor plan, so it makes sense to you in terms of what it looks like, what the return on investment might be, and ultimately how you can make as much money as possible over the coming years.
Great.
Michael, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Cole. Appreciate it.
Guys.
Thank you. Cheers. Thank you.